Hi there, it's Mr. Clark. Welcome to lesson MED.5.2 on harmony and cadences. So we're first going to think about cadences in two voices. In the modern sense that we've talked about, when we look at a cadence, it's the end of a phrase. And the most typical cadence that we hear would be from 5/7 to 1. So that's what the typical cadence that we would hear in our music would be. But all a cadence is going from a tension to a resolution. So in order to go from tense to resolve, we need to know how tense and dissonant medieval people thought various intervals were, because we're dealing with two voices. So the most stable intervals were the unison and the octave, which we still hold true today. Optimal blend, so still quite good. You have the fifth and the fourth. That comes from the harmonic series, where overtones reinforce each other. And then we get to more unstable intervals, though it's a relative blend, our thirds. They thought these were relatively tense. And then these were strong discords. That should be minor second. And then the minor sixth, which we would consider consonants today. So anytime you progress from an unstable to a stable interval could be a cadence at the end of a phrase. We're going to specifically look at two kinds that they recognize. So we have directed cadences that are stronger and have the two voices move in contrary motion by step. So here are some examples. We have a second going out to a fourth, going out to a fifth, so it's close enough. Sorry, major second, minor third, coming into a unison, or going out to a fifth, major third into a unison, or out to a fifth, minor sixth, that terrible interval, out to an octave, or into a fourth, major sixth now, out to an octave, or into a fourth. Then we have our minor seventh, major seventh. Really, those have to come into fifths, because if you tried to move them outward by step, you'd get a ninth, which is a second, which is not stable. So sixths resolving out to octaves is what you're going to see most of the time, but these are all of the possibilities. Oblique cadences are weaker. One voice stays the same, because that's what oblique means, while the other resolves. So this is what these sound like. Sorry, coming into a unison. Major second to a unison. Minor third coming into a unison. And there's no way to do that strictly by step, so that's why there's that cheating interval in there. Or going out to a fifth. Major third coming into a unison, or up to a fifth, minor sixth to a fifth, major sixth to a fifth, minor seventh to an octave, or into a fifth, major seventh out to an octave, or into a fifth. So that's what you're going to look at when you see two voices. So now we're going to talk about harmony in three voices. So the most stable collection of notes was known as the trine. The full name was Trina Harmoniae Perfectio, threefold perfection of harmony, because they really liked it. Because it has all perfect intervals, an implied perfect unison, a perfect fourth, a perfect fifth, and a perfect octave. Voila, there it is. So unison, octave, and then fifth, fourth. But wait, couldn't you flip that and have the fourth on the bottom? Yes, of course you could, and you do see that in music. This one's more common because the fifth was considered to be more stable, so they want the more stable thing on the bottom. Sure, okay. So there are some examples of mildly unstable combinations that add some color and can easily resolve to a trine. So here are some examples of mildly unstable chords, which we would consider very stable today, major and minor triads. and then harmonies built on fifths or fourths, and then having these seconds. So these chords all have specific contexts where you'd find them today, major and minor triads everywhere, but then these quintal and quartal harmonies you find in a lot of 20th century music by people like Copland. These sus chords you'll find a lot in jazz, also more contemporary Christian music, or just more popular music in general. And then unstable chords, so these were some mildly unstable. Unstable usually feature the sixth or seventh in outer intervals that could resolve outwards to an octave, sixth out to an octave, or a seventh into a fifth, because that makes it easy to resolve to a trine. So here are some examples of unstable chords. Lovely. So when you're in 3 or 4 parts, a directed cadence usually will follow these guidelines. So you have an unstable chord going to a stable chord, preferably a trine or a perfect interval, and then each unstable interval resolved by stepwise contrary motion, or as near to stepwise as you can get. So here you have an unstable chord. So the outer voices are a sixth, a minor sixth. Ooh, what a terrible interval! And they go out to an octave. And then here you have a minor third that goes out to a fifth. So both of these unstable intervals resolve outwards, and we end up with a trine. So here are some more examples that you can study of unstable chords resolving to perfect intervals or trines, and the same thing can happen with oblique motion as well. One last note, there are some specific forms of cadences that have special names. So in the 1300s, it was most common to have the outer voices be a major sixth going to a perfect octave, the lower voice being the tenor, and then the upper voice being one of the upper voices. Sometimes this required accidentals to be added. So you can see the next section of Musica Ficta about adding accidentals. So there are 2 common types of cadences. This first one is known as the double leading tone cadence, because both of the upper voices move by half step up to the trine. The other option, here we have the half step on the bottom, and then both of the upper voices move by major second. And that's known as the Phrygian cadence because of that characteristic one flew, one motion that you find in the Phrygian scale. The last common cadence type that we might see in the 1300s is known as the Landini cadence, because Francesco Landini was very fond of it. And in fact, the attribution properly goes to him, as opposed to many cases where things are named after people that just popularize them rather than actually develop them. So what we have here is you have a sixth, so here we start. Here's our sixth, specifically a major sixth that is preparing to go out. So without this little ornamentation, but this step down and then skip up, that's what makes it a Landini cadence. So that temporary resolution down to a fifth before leaping out to an octave. That's the characteristic sound. All right, enjoy your harmony and cadences, and I'll see you next time for the highly controversial topic of Musica Ficta.